It's 7 p.m. Tuesday, May 21st, here in Seoul.
Coming up on News Center tonight. President Moon Jae-in reaffirms South Korea's alliance with the U.S. as he hosts a luncheon with key commanders of both countries' militaries.
A senior South Korean government official says the next Inter-Korean summit, if realized, would focus on substance rather than formality to lay the groundwork for another North Korea-U.S. summit.
As the U.S. government backs off its ban on Chinese tech giant Huawei, other tech industries may be caught in the crossfire of the U.S. China trade war.
And South Korea's ICT exports continue to fall on weak demand for semiconductors and displays. NEWSCENTER begins now. Good evening and welcome to Arirang News Center, coming to you live from Seoul. I'm Arirang.
And I'm Han-daeun. Thanks for tuning in. We'll begin at the nation's top office. President Moon Jae-in has reaffirmed the strong military alliance between South Korea and the U.S.
During a gathering with top military officials from both countries, the president said the two allies' close cooperation stood out, especially in light of recent developments. Park Ki-jun at the presidential office for us tonight.
President Moon Jae-in says the ironclad alliance between South Korea and the United States was demonstrated for their joint response toward North Korea's recent provocations.
한미 동맹의 공고함과 한미 양국의 긴밀한 공조는 최근 북한의 발사체의 발사에 대한 대응에서도 아주 빛이 났다고 생각합니다. 양국은 아주 긴밀한 그런 공조와 협의 속에 한 목소리로 또 아주 차분하고 절제된 그런 메시지를 내므로써 북한이 새롭게 더 추가적인 도발을 하지 않는 한 대화의 모멘텀을 유지해 나갈 수 있게 되었습니다.
This came during a luncheon with the top South Korean and U.S. military commanders at the Blue House on Tuesday. It was the first meeting with such a select few commanders from the two sides since President Moon took office. The president emphasized that the driving force of the peace process on the Korean Peninsula is a two-country strong partnership. He said improved inter-Korean relations and the easing of military tensions based on that alliance are helping the denuclearization talks between Pyongyang and Washington. General Robert Abrams, commander of the U.S. Forces Korea, also thanked President Moon for his support, which has allowed the military to maintain readiness against any situation.
We thank you for your leadership and your continued support on the issues that matter to us most. Under your administration and your leadership, the Republic of Korea Armed Forces enjoys historic levels of resourcing, which makes our alliance stronger and prepares us for any potential crisis or future threat.
The president stressed that the two countries' alliance should not be a temporary one. He says it needs to continue even after peace is established on the Korean Peninsula to secure the peace and stability of the entire Northeast Asian region. Park Ki-jun, Arirang News.
A senior South Korean government official says the next Inter-Korean summit will focus on substance rather than formality to lay the groundwork for another Pyongyang-Washington summit. The high-level source also says the U.S. is reviewing options at a working level to resume negotiations with North Korea. Or Oh Jung-hee at the Unification Ministry with more.
A high-level South Korean government official says if South Korean President Moon Jae-in and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un were to hold a fourth summit, it'll be simple like the second one held in May last year. Speaking to reporters on Tuesday, this official said the next Inter-Korean summit's goal would be to lay the groundwork for another Pyongyang-Washington summit. To do that, the summit should focus on substance rather than formality and therefore doesn't require special envoys or high-level talks. Meanwhile, the official said the U.S. is reviewing options at a working level to restart negotiations with North Korea. When U.S. Special Representative for North Korea Stephen Biegun visited Seoul earlier this month, the South Korean government could see Washington was preparing, quote, a variety of things to narrow differences with the North. South Korea's Unification Minister Kim Yeon-cheol echoed the remark at a press conference on Tuesday.
Seoul and Washington are making various efforts to resume negotiations with the North. South Korea and the U.S. agree that now is the time to manage the situation and are exchanging various opinions to restart talks.
However, it seems communication between South and North Korea isn't going smoothly. The North's Minister of the Joint Liaison Office has been absent for almost 3 months since the Hanoi summit, and the government official says situations aren't much different behind the scenes. Oh Jung-hee, Arirang News.
Seoul's defense ministry is hoping to patch up strained security ties with its neighboring countries of China and Japan by holding ministerial-level defense talks. The ministry aims to materialize those talks ahead of the 3-day Shangri-La Dialogue, Asia's biggest security forum, set to be held in Singapore next week. Kim Ji-yeon reports.
Dialogue is key when it comes to healing relationships, and that's what seems to be the goal of Seoul's defense ministry as it seeks to improve soured military relations with neighboring countries. South Korea's defense ministry said Tuesday is seeking to hold ministerial-level meetings with China and Japan. If a ministerial-level meeting with China takes place, it would be the first time such a meeting takes place in over a year and a half, after ties between Seoul and Beijing went cold following a diplomatic row stemming from Beijing's opposition to Seoul's decision to deploy the U.S. THAAD missile defense system on the Korean peninsula. Seoul's defense ministry confirmed the hotline between South Korean and Chinese militaries, which hadn't been operational due to the THAAD issue, is once again fully working. Official communication channels are also being restored, as seen in the bilateral working-level talks between the two countries held last May. The South Korean Navy sent 2 frigates to China's port city of Qingdao to mark the 70th anniversary of the founding of the Navy of the People's Liberation Army last month. Efforts are also being made to restore military ties between South Korea and Japan, which worsened after Tokyo claimed a South Korean warship locked its radar onto a low-flying Japanese maritime patrol aircraft late last year, a statement Seoul has strongly denied. The need for continuous dialogue was highlighted during a trilateral defense meeting held in Seoul earlier this month, with Seoul and Tokyo agreeing that special emphasis must be placed in issues regarding North Korean threats as well as maintaining regional stability and safety. In addition, Japan's recent conciliatory gesture is seen as a major reason kindling a sense of cooperation, as Japanese Defense Minister Takeshi Iwaya reportedly said he wants to bring Tokyo's relationship with Seoul back to normal. A ministerial-level meeting between the two countries would be the first since last October. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
For the first time ever, U.S. President Donald Trump has pinpointed that North Korea has 5 nuclear test sites, adding that the North only offered to rid 1 or 2 of them. While opinions vary on whether the president's remarks reflect Washington's official analysis, here in South Korea, questions are rising on where the 5 nuclear sites are located. Our Lee Ji-won talked to the experts for some clues.
In an interview with Fox News that aired on Sunday local time, U.S. President Donald Trump said that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un only offered to remove 1 or 2 nuclear sites in the North. But the North has 5 nuclear sites, Trump said, and the reason Hanoi ended without a deal was the lack of plans for the others. That's prompted a lot of speculation about what and where the 5 nuclear sites are. Some experts have claimed that the 2 sites Kim Jong-un said he'd get rid of were the Yongbyon nuclear facility and the Dongchangri missile engine test site. Both were mentioned as denuclearization steps in the Pyongyang Joint Declaration signed by the leaders of the 2 Koreas last September. But some don't think Dongchangri was one of them.
I don't think the U.S. would have counted Dongchangri or even the Punggye-ri nuclear test site as part of the 5 sites to be dismantled. It's something that's already been offered.
Instead, Shin pointed to hidden nuclear enrichment facilities at Gangseon and Bungang. The Gangsan complex just outside Pyongyang is known as the first covered uranium enrichment facility and is believed to have been in operation for more than a decade. And according to South Korea's Chungang Daily, the Bungang facility near Yongbyon is said to have been flagged at the summit for demolition as part of the Yongbyon facility. Another expert, though, believes there are many more nuclear sites in the north and sees the 5 sites mentioned as just the ones for uranium enrichment.
South Korean and U.S. intelligence have said before that they believe Pyongyang has 2 or 3 uranium facilities, including Yongbyon. But that information could be just what they say publicly. When including the covert ones and the suspected sites, there could indeed be a total of 5.
Park added that this is likely the case since the U.S. primarily wants the North to stop producing nuclear materials. Lee Ji-won, Arirang News.
As Washington and Beijing continue to go tit for tat in the ongoing trade war, it seems they're raising the stakes by further targeting crucial industries. Oh So-young explains.
The U.S. Department of Homeland Security has issued strong concern that Chinese-made drones may be sending flight data back to China. According to CNN, U.S. companies have been warned to exercise caution when buying devices which could, quote, transfer American data into an authoritarian state which permits its intelligence services to have unfettered access to such information. While the warning did not specify the companies, it is presumed to target DJI, China's #1 drone maker, which accounts for almost 80% of drones in the US and Canada. The warning comes amid the ongoing trade dispute between Washington and Beijing, and after President Donald Trump's order last week that bans US firms from doing business with China's Huawei. To minimize impact on Huawei's existing US customers and enable software updates, Washington on Monday eased some of the restrictions, allowing Huawei to buy American products for 90 days. Huawei founder Rong Zhongfei appeared to dismiss this move on Tuesday, saying Washington's actions to block Huawei from purchasing American chips underestimate the Chinese company's capabilities. Rong told CCTV that Huawei was at odds with the US government, not US firms, and that his company could make the chips it buys from America. He indicated that the firm had been ready for US action. In fact, Beijing appears to be sending a message that it isn't backing down. China's Xinhua news agency reported Tuesday that President Xi Jinping had visited a company specializing in rare earth minerals, which are crucial for producing smartphones, superconductors, and other high-tech devices. Rare earth minerals were among the few goods Washington excluded from plans to impose wide-ranging tariffs on Chinese exports to the US. Observers have interpreted Xi's visit as a strategic reminder of America's heavy reliance on Chinese minerals, further generating speculation that they could be used as a leverage and raise the stakes in the ongoing trade war. Oh So-young, Arirang News.
The OECD has cut this year's growth outlook for South Korea to 2.4%, which is down 0.2 percentage points from its previous forecast in March. The OECD pointed to falling exports amid a slowdown in global trade, as well as shrinking investment and employment. On a brighter note, the OECD expects the situation to improve in 2020 thanks to the government's expansionary fiscal policy. In terms of the global economy, the OECD expects it to grow by 3.2%, which is also down from its earlier forecast of 3.3%. The organisation cited downside risks, including growing trade tensions and a slowing Chinese economy. Meanwhile, South Korean exports of ICT products continue to fall on weak demand for semiconductors and displays. Our Ko-ryun-hee has the latest.
South Korea's exports of ICT products fell again in April, which could be another alarming sign for the nation's export-reliant economy. According to the Trade Ministry on Tuesday, Korea's ICT exports slumped by 10.6% on year last month, marking around $15.2 billion. The figure has been dropping on year for 6 consecutive months now, and the ministry has said poor semiconductor exports are behind the fall. Chip exports decreased by more than 13% during the same period because of falling prices in the memory chip sector. Spot prices of 4 gigabit DRAM fell to $2.25, which is a huge drop from December's figure of $3.03. Analysts say that the market has been suffering from oversupply and lower than expected demand from data centers. This has hit Korean exports hard, as semiconductors account for more than 55% of total ICT exports. Outbound shipments of displays, another key export item, decreased by more than 16%. This was mainly due to the rising competition from China in the LCD panel industry. On a brighter note, exports of smartphones and computers increased. In terms of export destinations, shipments to China slumped by more than 15%, while exports to the U.S. jumped slightly. The ministry says many Chinese consumers are purchasing locally manufactured products. Meanwhile, the amount of imports increased slightly to around $9.5 billion, bringing the trade surplus to around $5.7 billion. To boost falling exports, the South Korean government has been venturing into new semiconductor areas, such as a non-memory field. 고르니, Arirang News.
In other news, South Koreans will be able to use mobile payment services when buying goods overseas starting next week. The cabinet today approved a revision to an ordinance that allows non-financial firms like fintech companies to provide mobile payment services abroad. People will be able to buy things with mobile payment apps such as Kakao Pay at partner stores in Japan as well as Southeast Asian nations after pre-charging their accounts. By using this method, people can avoid paying about 1% of overseas transaction fees to global credit companies like Visa or MasterCard. The Finance Ministry also expects the move to strengthen the competitiveness of the country's fintech industry. South Korea's foreign ministry has raised its travel alert level for some regions of Iran, citing the escalating military tensions and the possibility of terror attacks. The ministry earlier today issued a red alert for Iran's western regions bordering Turkey and Iraq, recommending that all Koreans leave the area immediately. For the country's southern Hormuz Strait and nearby regions, the government also raised the alert level to yellow, warning Korean nationals to avoid visiting the area. Ewha Womans University has revealed 2 photos of a symbolic figure of Korea's fight for independence against Japanese colonial rule to celebrate the university's 133rd anniversary and the centennial of the March 1st independence movement. 2 photos of independence activist Yu Sun were revealed for the first time to the public at a special photo exhibition today. The photos, which will be on display until Friday at Ewha Womans University History Museum, seem to be taken during Yu's time at the school between 1915 and 1919. Today in South Korea is a celebration of married couples, but social trends seem to indicate there will be fewer marriages to celebrate every year. Kim Mo-kyun explains why in the second part of our May Family Month series.
In South Korea, the 21st of May is known as Married Couples Day. It goes back to 1995 when a couple who were both pastors began a movement to make it an official observance to remind married couples of their value to each other and their role in creating happy families. After years of effort, the day was finally designated by the legislature, just not as a holiday in 2007.
But with the recent increase in societal problems such as unemployment, rising household prices, and an aging population, the number of people who can actually celebrate the day has been on the decline.
Last year, according to Statistics Korea, the nation's crude marriage rate, which refers to the annual number of marriages per 1,000 people, dipped to a record low of 5, down to almost half the number when data was first compiled in 1970. Data also showed that the total number of new marriages last year fell to around 257,600, down 2.6% from the year before. People are getting married later too. The average age of a first marriage rose by 0.2 years each to 33.2 years for men and 30.4 for women. A wedding planner says she's seen weddings becoming more cost-efficient.
I've been working in this industry for 10 years and things have changed a lot. Unlike before, most couples are in their 30s and 40s, and many of them try to skip most of the extravagant expenses and formalities and try to focus more on what they think is important.
On the other hand, Korea is seeing its divorce rate rise day by day. Last year, a total of 108,700 couples decided to part ways, up 2.5% on year. 1/3 of them had been together for more than 20 years. An expert says this is because of greater social burdens, but also a more open-minded culture.
Basically, divorce and just not marrying have become more culturally acceptable, so people are thinking more individualistically. More importantly, young people having trouble making a living has made them hesitant not only to marry, but to date.
The experts said that government financial support for newlyweds and families could help in the short term. But what's needed in the long term is a deeper understanding of marriage and its importance to oneself and society. Kim Mo-kyan, Arirang News.
Startups have always been recognized as a good way to inject vitality into slumping economy. While South Korea continues to suffer from weak growth and falling exports, a special global startup festival kicked off today in Daejeon as part of efforts to nurture startup companies. Our Yoon Jung-min is in Daejeon with more.
To boost innovative companies, particularly startups, Exit Daejeon 2019 kicked off on Tuesday at a convention center some 160 kilometers south of Seoul. Around 300 participants are attending the event, which will run until Thursday, including 60 startup businesses and 50 investors from around the world, government officials, and related institutions.
This festival will help startups in Korea meet foreign investors. Also, foreign startups will have a chance to settle down here in Korea through this event.
Our company has launched a new product this year. We are looking for buyers not only in Korea but also overseas. We hope to expand sales channels and attract more investors.
Renowned startups supporting organizations from Europe and the U.S. are taking part, including Slush, one of the largest non-profit startup conferences in Finland. During the three-day festival, auditions will be held in front of representatives from global startups supporting institutions and future investors. 3 finalists will be given a chance to attend Slush 2019 in Helsinki this November. Other events and conferences will enable networking among businesses, investors, and the government, while counseling for venture companies will also be available at the convention center. Exit Daejeon 2019 aims to help Korea become a global hub for business innovation, with startups playing a major role in the country's economy. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News, Daejeon.
Also today, one of Korea's most recognized international food exhibitions has kicked off a 4-day run. Our business correspondent Kim Hae-sung takes us to Kintex to bring us the latest food trends for this year.
Seoul Food 2019, Korea's largest annual international food exhibition, opened on Tuesday with more than 1,500 food and drink vendors from over 40 countries showcasing their latest products.
We have a record 3,000 booth at the 37th Seoul Food exhibition. With advances in technological innovation, this year's food trend theme is discovery and adventurous consumers.
Consumers are becoming more adventurous and open to discovering new food and flavors thanks to social media, where people share new food products from around the world in the blink of an eye.
Snack companies are trying out exotic new flavors as consumers have become more bold in their tastes.
From strawberry flavor to wasabi flavor, there are a dozen flavors for almond snacks. Local foods with unique flavors are also going global.
Salted egg has a very rich taste. Saltiness and sugar. Yes, so in Singapore we use it in our daily dishes. So we infused it into our snacks. We have presence in Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Malaysia.
According to Innova Market Insights, snacking is a rising global trend as more people squeeze a small fourth meal in their daily routine, which could be anything from bizarre snacks to natural and organic superfoods. Of course, packaged meals for one, like noodles and soup, are still on the rise.
With the number of single-person households growing rapidly, we came up with fermented sauces packaged for 2 servings. It's also easy to make. We have a YouTube video link showing how to cook the food. Thanks to interest in Korean food, we plan to expand further into the global market, like the U.S., China, and the Philippines.
According to the Korea Trade Investment Promotion Agency, around $40 million worth of contracts were signed at last year's event, connecting importers and exporters in the food and beverage industry in Korea. And this year, with the number of visitors to Seoul Food expected to surpass last year's 45,000 people, the organizers expect the event will help enrich even more lives, especially for foodies. Kim Hae-sung, Arirang News.
Rising trade tensions have prompted the World Trade Organization to dim its prospects for trade growth in the second quarter of this year. The WTO's quarterly outlook indicator suggested trade growth was likely to remain weak, with a 9-year low reading of 96.3. Readings greater than 100 suggest growth above medium-term trends, while those below that number indicate the opposite. The WTO said the outlook could get worse if tensions are not resolved or if macroeconomic policy fails to adjust to changing circumstances. Public workers will face tougher punishment if they are caught drunk driving. Starting late June, they will get a pay cut even for a first-time violation with no damage to others. They'll get suspended from work if they crash into another car and will be dismissed if they cause death. Korea's leading food delivery service, 배달의 민족, or Baemin for short, will begin services in Vietnam next month, having acquired a local online food ordering platform in February. According to parent company Ewha Brothers, services will first be offered in Ho Chi Minh City before spreading to Hanoi and other cities. Baemin, however, will face tough competition in Vietnam's delivery market, which is expected to top $38 million by next year. Tottenham Hotspur forward Son Heung-min has been given an 8 out of 10 rating by a British newspaper for his performance this season. It's the Independent's highest rating for the squad, which the South Korean shares with teammates Musa Sissoko and Jan Vertonghen. Son scored 12 goals and got 6 assists in the Premier League. He also scored 4 times in the Champions League to help Spurs reach the final for the first time in their history. That has been your 3-minute news flash. It is now time to take a look at some of the digital media content available on Arirang's social media platforms.
And today we look at a top fashion design school in New York that has opened a campus here in Korea.
I am the chairperson of the Fashion Business Management Department. I have worked in fashion for over 20 years. My specific specialization is in the integration of new technologies into fashion business practices. I have been a part of FIT for 4 years now. FIT is the premier institution in the world to study fashion business management.
FIT SUNY Korea really is an extension of FIT New York City. The concept was for us to be able to deliver the exact same curriculum in Korea that you have in New York City to Korea, because it's a unique experience for the students, and I think it gives the Korean students a global perspective of education.
It was always my dream to go to like a top fashion design school, and I was actually an English teacher here in Korea before, and I heard about this program, and it was just like perfect fit, like a country I love and a school I love, so like I had to come here. We definitely like have more one-on-one time with our professors than if we were in New York City. Since it's like such a new program, there's less students right now, and so we get to learn more from their experiences, and we get to have more feedback from them about our projects.
Yes, I am very proud because not a lot of people get selected to come here, and I think it's an honor to be here, studying here.
As everyone knows, the Asian market is so dynamic and is the highest growth market, not just for our industry, but many industries. The customer here has a very high taste level. When you measure the performance, retail sales that Korea represents for many fashion brands, It is really out of proportion for the size of the country economy that it actually represents.
I think one also important thing is that in academia, these classes, draping, pattern making, sewing, are merely tools. The purpose behind academia is really to create good citizens, and we use draping, pattern making, sewing, English, biology in order to create these students. So that's really the focus. We're really focused on creating a student that can go into different areas and be successful.
The nation enjoyed some slightly cooler weather today, but temperatures are set to heat up from tomorrow.
That's right, and let's get more for the weather, and let's turn to our Michelle Park, who is at the Weather Centre for us. Michelle, what's the latest?
Good evening, guys. Now, as a high-pressure front makes its way easterly from China, the nation can expect another sunny weather tomorrow. And Tokyo will see cloudy conditions during the afternoon, while Beijing will be sweltering hot with mercury reaching into the mid-30s. Now, taking a look at our temperature readings in detail for Wednesday, now we'll see big differences as the morning lows are mostly within the teens. The Seoul begins at 13 degrees Celsius, while the southern regions such as Busan and Jeju will top to 16 and 18 degrees. And mercury will increase by 10 to as much as 20 degrees tomorrow. The Seoul will mark up to 25 degrees, while the Daegu and Gyeongju can expect even higher temperatures at 29 and 30 degrees respectively. Seoul's mercury will reach all the way up to 30 degrees Celsius by Friday, while the southern provinces will likely experience another heat waves. I'll leave you with the weather conditions around the world.
That will wrap it up for this edition of Arirang News. Thank you, as always, for watching.
Stay tuned to Arirang for more analysis on current issues on News in Depth coming up next.